All right. Welcome. This is going to be a very, very short video. Um, some people have asked me, and I've also had communications from others who have wanted to know when you're planning your conferences, how do you determine who to invite as speakers? As some of you are no doubt familiar, we have the Ask the Pastor and Beyond Creation Science conference in 2025, which is going to be titled The Eschatology of Genesis, Montana Conference in 2025, which is going to be held next year in the month of July, the 22nd to the 25th in Whitehall, Montana at the Copper K Burn. And our tagline is "It all starts here." We want to see eschatology from the very beginning, based on the word in Isaiah 46 that says he declares the end at the beginning. And of course, as you can see, our keynote speakers this coming year are Dr. Don K. Preston, Steve Magua, Rick Welch, Dr. Jeff Vaughn, Zach Davis, Tim Martin. Now, how do we? What is our process? For instance, if for those of you who have been following us for a long time enough, you know that in the first year that we held our conference, we invited Tim Martin and Michael Miano, Nathan Tipi, and myself, and of course we also had Reverend Joseph Mumita speaking. That was our very first time to do a conference since we became preterists. The next year, we went ahead and we had preacher Holger Neubauer from the Churches of Christ. We had Adam Marshall. We had Michael Miano. We had Tim Martin again, myself, and apart from some health challenges that came up, Pastor Joseph Mumita was also going to speak again at our conference. So some people kind of wonder, how do you decide who you are going to invite? And first of all, we decide prayerfully. We pray. We are a praying church. We are a praying ministry. We believe that there is a goal and a will that God has. So we pray for God to guide us. But we also base it on what we want to communicate in any particular conference. So the first year, one of the things that we wanted to do was to give just general overview of preterism and what we believe about it, but also we wanted to firmly declare we are covenant creation proponents. And so that's why we wanted our brother Tim Martin to come and flesh that out for us. In the next year, and by the way, for the first one, Michael Miano was really going to be our preterist connection, and of course, in the next one, we kind of got a little bit deeper. Now we were looking at the book of Revelation specifically. And so we wanted to continue to express our understanding of eschatology, especially in the book of Revelation. So that's why we had more preachers that were more into the eschatology side rather than the covenant creation side. So we only had Tim Martin on the covenant creation side, and everyone else of us was focused more on the eschatology side. So one of the things that we do when we are looking at who to invite, we want to be able to tap into all the resources that are within the fulfilled eschatology community. So we want diversity. We want diversity of understanding. We also want, obviously, to increase the level of expertise and so on and so forth. So you will notice that, like this year, there's a kind of a change in which, apart from Tim Martin and myself, those who have come in the past are not in our lineup this year, but now we have what I would call new blood and veterans. We have Don K. Preston, we have Jeff Vaughn, who have been doing this much longer than I've been a Christian. We have Zach Davis and Rick Welch, who are newcomers like myself into this field of eschatology and fulfilled studies. And of course, we have Tim Martin, who also, like Dr. Preston and Dr. Vaughn, they've been doing this for a long time. So our thought process is that we are looking and we are saying we want to be able to not only reach out to those people we believe are great experts in our field, but we also want to bring the diversity that will bring greater audiences into our conferences. And so in other words, we don't look and say, oh, this preacher or this, like for instance, this year we had Adam Marshall, who for me was just such an explosive teaching. Yet, based on what we are doing in Genesis next year, that's not Adam Marshall's forte. Same thing with Michael Miano. Michael Miano is one of our premier partners in our ministry. Is really a good friend and a great partner. And so we know that in the years to come, we will call upon him many, many, many times. But this time we felt, because we want to be able to diversify a little bit, that we will kind of call him in our future and not in the present. Same thing with Pastor Joseph. Pastor Joseph is actually one of the people who is in the partnership board of Ask the Pastor. And he's been such a great support. But we also look at how much time do we have. For instance, the conference that we are going to be doing this next year is a destination conference, which means we are going to be there for 4 days, but we have a very limited time of actually sitting down to do the conference teachings. We will only be teaching in the evenings, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., as opposed to 2024, where we arrived on a Friday morning at 7 a.m., and the teachings were going on all day long, all the way up to sometimes 8 p.m., 9 p.m. for 3 days. And so we had many, many, many slots for teaching. This next year, we only have evenings, because during the day we are going to go and explore Montana. We are going to have vacation time with our families. We are going to have a festival environment where we can, just chill around and get to know one another, enjoy, play games together, and so on and so forth. So therefore, because of that, we have much more limited space in terms of how many speakers can we have. So each conference is different in terms of the goal, the theme, the availability, the timing, and also the costs. So we have to consider, particularly, especially when we are going away like to Montana, it's a greater cost outlay than when we do it in St. Louis in our own building, within our own resources, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the things that we consider when we are considering speakers. I want to say this, especially for those who had questions. So far, with exception to one time, and that was the first year, we have not had a speaker that came that we fundamentally disagreed with, and we parted ways in a fashion that we felt not again. Okay, so in the first year, we did have something like that happen, but the particular speaker that I'm speaking about, we still remain friends, we still remain in contact, but they felt and we felt this is not a good fit. But apart from that, every other speaker that we have had are people that we kind of got into a greater relationship once we did the conferences together. And so I expect that, for instance, in the future, by the grace of God, we will once again invite Holger Neubauer, who was such a blessing to us, Adam Marshall, Mike Miano, right? Pastor Joseph Mumita. We expect that these preachers will be able to come back and teach in our conferences. And even with the particular gentleman that we kind of felt we are going different directions in what we believe, we are hoping that in the future we will have sessions where we can incorporate what he believes and that we can teach the same ways. So I just wanted to give that, because I think people do wonder why did you choose these speakers this year? Why didn't you choose those speakers the next year? And so on and so forth. There are many variables. There are many factors. but mostly it is a matter of the type of conference, the time available, and the topics at hand, and also the issues of diversity that we are trying to establish. Now, this next conference in Montana is not necessarily going to be it's not about necessarily, it's going to be focused on eschatology. I'm sure that in the future there are conferences that we will hold that will focus on the creation issues, which is where covenant creation comes in. But right now we are more focused on the eschatology issues. We believe that if we can establish and teach properly things concerning the end, then that gives a platform and a step to be able to go back and actually establish the things at the beginning. So even when we look at Genesis this time, our focus will still be on the end, the second coming, the final judgment, and so on and so forth. And so hopefully in the future we will have creation conferences, and when we do that, obviously we will have more of creation based teachers. Now, I do know that, let's say for instance, this year we have Dr. Jeff Vaughn, who is a creationist, what we call a covenant creationist, and Tim Martin, but yet our focus is establishing how Genesis establishes the second coming. So anyway, hopefully that gives insight and answers to those who have been asking questions, and we do appreciate those questions that people are asking, and we will continue to answer them because we want to be a very transparent people, and we want everybody to be part of the process of how we are establishing these conferences. Well, that will be all. Like I said, this was just a short one, 12 minutes, and that's done. God bless you so much. See you in the next broadcast.